Hey everyone, you're watching Six Path Weeb. Today, we continue our journey into part 2 of the fanfic saga, Dark Harry Potter x Juubi Naruto. Brace yourselves, things are about to get intense. Disclaimer, everything here is for entertainment and discussion only. I don't own any anime footage or characters. All rights belong to their original creators. Let's dive in and see where the story takes us. Sunday, September 1, 1991. Naruko groaned as she rolled out of bed. A glance at her watch showed it was 5 a.m., her usual waking time. She stretched her arms until her shoulders popped and lazily climbed out of bed, her bare feet padding softly across the floor to the bathroom. When she looked at her hands, she winced at the dried scrapes she had picked up yesterday. Thankfully, her tiny injuries had mostly healed overnight, leaving just faint marks as reminders of her adventurous afternoon. She smiled faintly, brushing her hair back and washing up, ready to start her morning routine. Dressed in comfortable exercise clothes, Naruko quietly slipped out of the common room. The castle grounds were still misty and quiet, the only sounds being the soft rustling of leaves and the distant call of early birds. She ran around the lake, feeling the cool morning air on her face, then did a series of stretches, balancing exercises, and gentle martial movements she had learned from observation. Finally, she sat cross-legged on the grass for a short meditation, letting her mind feel light and clear, like a calm pond. By 7:35 a.m., Naruko returned to the common room. Breakfast would start soon, but the room was mostly empty, just the sleepy groans of early risers. She was about to head to the table when a group of 6 older students stood up and walked toward her. Among them, she noticed Terrence Higgs, who glared at her with the kind of sneer that seemed to take practice to perfect. His expression looked almost comical with the bandages across his nose. A tall girl with violet eyes and golden blonde hair smiled warmly at Naruko and spoke first. "Good morning, Naruko. Would you care to join us for a little chat?" Naruko smiled politely. "I think I'm a bit in need of a shower first, if that's all right." The blonde girl grinned and waved her wand. "Purifico." In an instant, Naruko's hair, clothes, and skin were clean and fresh again. She sighed, a little annoyed but impressed, and followed the group to a circle of seats. "Now," the girl said, twirling a strand of her hair as if thinking, where to begin. She ignored the impatient looks from the others and focused on Naruko. "You see, Naruko, may I call you Naruko?" she asked. Naruko nodded. "Good. We are the Slytherin Council. We're made up of the top students from each year, and our role is to look out for our housemates, both in school and outside of it. Each of us has a responsibility to guide and protect the students in our year." One of the older boys added, "Which is why you didn't get in trouble for yesterday's incident. Parents started it, so you were not at fault. Everyone here knows to keep that quiet." Naruko blinked. She had fully expected some sort of punishment for her daring display, but it seemed she had somehow earned respect instead. The blonde girl, who had introduced herself as Harper Baddock, continued. "I am head of the 7th years. This is Vazey Adams, 6th year head." A tall, dark-haired boy with golden eyes gave her a polite wave. "You've met Terrence Higgs, 5th year head," Harper said with a playful flick of her wrist. Terrence scowled at her but didn't speak. "Alexov Chayskivch, 4th year head." A tan boy with deep red hair nodded in greeting. "Christine Fletcher, 3rd year head." A gentle girl with long black hair gave Naruko a warm smile. "Patrick Lodson, 2nd year head," Harper said, pointing to a small blonde boy. "And last, but definitely not least," Harper said with a flourish, "Naruko, head of the 1st years." Naruko froze. "Excuse me?" she asked. "Did I hear that right?" "You did," Harper said with a kind smile. "We want you to be the head of the 1st years." "Why me?" Naruko asked, still stunned. "Well, for one," Harper said, "yesterday, you showed bravery and quick thinking. You protected your friends and classmates, which is exactly what a council member does. And your skills, you were incredible. Few could keep up with your movements, and you've shown yourself to be naturally strong and clever." "I object to that." "She didn't even use magic," Terrence snapped. Naruko chuckled softly. "I guess sometimes, even without magic, you can still do your best and help others," she said, feeling a warm glow inside. The council members exchanged smiles, and for the first time that morning, Naruko felt proud. She might have been small and new, but perhaps she could make a difference, one kind and careful step at a time. Naruko turned and looked at him with a sparkle in her eyes. "Terrence, you really should be proud of what happened yesterday," she said firmly but kindly. "You and 4 others of your year were bested by a 1st year who didn't even need magic. And if you ask the older students, they'll tell you, Potter has an incredible core of power, even if he keeps it under control. Some of us could feel it radiating last night. Patrick piped up, leaning forward. And that little trick he used with Malev? He didn't even need a wand. Parents could only stare, his words caught in his throat, as the others nodded in agreement. Naruko grinned, a mischievous sparkle lighting her face. It's not about being scary, Terrence. It's about knowing what you're capable of. That's why we want you on our council. But why me? Harry asked, still a little bewildered. Yesterday, most of you were upset at me for stopping the Dark Lord. Oh, don't worry about that, Naruko said, waving a hand as if brushing off the thought. Just because we're Slytherins doesn't mean we're mean-spirited. Most of us were just surprised that a first year would rise to the occasion like that. And now that Professor Snape knows we respect your abilities, we treat you like any other council member. Weasley added with a gentle nod, Slytherins respect cleverness and skill, and you've certainly shown both. Harry tilted his head thoughtfully. So, what would I do on this council? Naruko leaned forward, her voice excited. For starters, you help look after the first years. If they're confused or get into little troubles, you help them understand the rules, make things right, or just make sure everyone is treated fairly. You also help keep everyone working together and make sure Slytherin House shines as a team. And most importantly, you help the house stay united, report anything unusual to a prefect, and be a friend to everyone who needs one. Kristen tilted her head and asked with a hopeful smile, so, will you join us? Harry shrugged. Sure, it sounds fun enough. Wonderful. Naruko clapped her hands together. Welcome to the Slytherin Council, Harry. We'll make sure everyone knows you're part of the team. The others cheered, and even Higgs grumbled a quiet congratulations under his breath. Naruko looked around at the council with sparkling eyes. Next, we need to pick the head of the council. Ah yes, Alexov said with a laugh. How do we do that this year? Simple, Naruko said, bouncing on her toes. We'll have a friendly challenge, something fun for everyone to show their creativity and skills. Weasley groaned playfully. Why even bother? Naruko has won every year since she joined. Naruko shot him a grin. Yes, but this year we have a new member, Harry. I'm excited to see what he can do. At that, even Higgs couldn't hide a small smile. Naruko clapped her hands again. All right. The challenge will start after lunch. Everyone, enjoy breakfast first. Harry made his way to the first-year dorms, feeling the warm buzz of excitement in the castle. The room was empty, so he quickly showered and dressed in his green robes, ready to face the day. At breakfast, Draco leaned over curiously. Where did you go this morning? Exercising, Harry replied, biting into a piece of toast. Helps me stay fast and focused. Blaise raised an eyebrow. So that's how you managed yesterday. The other students at the table murmured in awe, impressed but smiling. Harry just shrugged, enjoying the friendly admiration without letting it get to his head. Later, on the 7th floor, Harry paused in front of a blank wall across from a tapestry. Something magical was calling to him from the other side, a curious pull that made him tilt his head in wonder. He tried to reach through, but the wall stayed solid. He sighed, realizing magic like this couldn't be forced. He would have to discover the way patiently, and he was good at patience. With a thoughtful smile, Harry walked away, the mysterious presence still humming in the distance. Adventure awaited, and he knew Naruko and the council would make sure it was an exciting, friendly journey full of surprises. Woof! Naruko ducked just in time as a large paw swooped down. A gigantic three-headed dog wagged its tails furiously, each head sniffing curiously at her. It tried to playfully swipe again, but Naruko sidestepped, giggling as the massive creature's paw swished past her. She floated a few inches above the ground using a small burst of chakra, her eyes scanning the dog carefully. Every attack from its three heads passed through her like mist. Naruko tilted her head, amused rather than afraid. Well, you're definitely a magical one, she murmured to herself, recalling some lessons about summoning beasts. A Cerberus, but one that's playful. Not dangerous. Good to know. Naruko's gaze shifted to the trapdoor behind the Cerberus. She could sense something strange below it, a glowing, magical plant, and some mysterious enchanted items waiting beneath. Normally, she could dash through the door with her jutsu, but the Cerberus stood in the way, guarding it faithfully. She frowned, tapping her fingers against her chin. I could try to get past you. But you seem friendly enough. I can't hurt magical creatures like you. You're rare and special. The three-headed dog barked again, wagging all tails in unison. Naruko grinned. I guess we'll have to be clever instead. After observing it carefully, Naruko took a small leap, spinning lightly in the air to slip past the Cerberus while it chased its own tail in confusion. With a soft giggle, she landed beside the trapdoor. Thanks for the fun, she said, giving the dog a playful wave before turning her attention to the magical items below. Later, walking through the castle halls, Naruko sighed as she searched for a hidden entrance to the lower dungeons. No matter how much she looked, there were no secret doors or magical traces. Everything seemed locked behind protective wards. She frowned, her hands on her hips, but her spirits remained bright. I'll figure it out, she muttered. There's always a way if you just use your brain. And maybe a little chakra. When she returned to the Great Hall, Naruko felt a warm glow inside. Her friends were waiting, chatting happily, and it was nice to see smiles instead of cautious looks. She noticed the teachers watching quietly, including a pair of professors exchanging nods of approval. Naruko's eyes landed on Professor Quirrell, who seemed different somehow. There was a strange shimmer in his aura, almost as if two different feelings were trapped inside him. Naruko tilted her head, curious, but she didn't worry, she had more immediate things to handle today. Naruko. A familiar voice called down the hallway. Hermione Granger bounded up, her bag bouncing against her side. Hey, Hermione. Thanks for catching up, Naruko said cheerfully. No problem. Life in Gryffindors. Interesting, Hermione replied with a small laugh. Some of the students can't stop talking about you joining Slytherin, but I think it's fun. Naruko smiled. That's good to hear. Making friends is always the best part of school. Hermione's eyes twinkled. And you? I heard Slytherin wasn't exactly welcoming at first. Naruko shrugged. I guess it just takes a little time for people to understand someone new. Besides, being friends makes everything easier. Hermione nodded, still smiling shyly. I hope we can talk more later. Naruko laughed softly. We will. For now, I have a meeting in the Slytherin common room. Race you there? Hermione giggled, nodding, and the two friends ran off down the hallway together. A cleared room near the common room had been transformed into an arena for the council's friendly competition. Bleachers floated in the air, filled with cheering students as 7 figures gathered on a raised platform. Naruko stood proudly among them, her friends by her side. Professor Snape watched closely from the sidelines, ensuring everyone played safely. With a flick of his wand, green sparks shot into the air, signaling the start of the friendly match. Before anyone could even move, a flash of red light gently tagged 2 of the participants. They giggled as they tumbled to the side, and the crowd cheered. Naruko's eyes sparkled with amusement. Taking out the first ones already? One of her friends teased. Naruko shook her head, smiling. Not really, they just happened to get in my way. Laughter and excitement filled the arena. Today, Naruko realized, wasn't just about competitions, it was about friendship, cleverness, and learning to navigate the magical world with joy and curiosity. And she couldn't wait to see what adventures came next. Professor Snape smirked. He had expected such skill and speed from Naruko, of course. She was a 7th-year student and had served as the council head for 4 years, not because of charm or looks, but because of her cleverness, quick thinking, and hard work. What surprised him most, however, was Harry's talent. At first, he had simply observed the boy from afar, thinking him just a quick learner, but now it was clear that Harry had a special spark. His movements were precise, and he seemed to anticipate spells and actions before they even happened. Across the arena, Weasley and Alexoff noticed Naruko distracted by her conversation with Harry. They raised their wands and sent colorful magical beams toward her. Naruko twirled and flipped gracefully, dodging each spell with skillful ease, and responded with dazzling bursts of shimmering light that made the beams swerve harmlessly into the air. Meanwhile, Harry faced Terrence Higgs, who was attempting a series of complicated spells. The young boy aimed to outshine Harry with bright flashes and twisting magical sparks. Harry rolled to the side and countered with calm, precise movements. He didn't need to rely on brute force, he could use clever tricks and his natural affinity for magic to stay one step ahead. Terrence tried to disarm Harry, but Harry had prepared clever protective enchantments. The wand might have left his hand, but it floated safely above him, ready for him to retrieve. Terrence's eyes widened as Harry's own spells deflected harmlessly around him. Naruko, noticing Harry was handling himself well, joined the action in her own creative way. She twirled her wand and sent a gentle whirlwind of sparkling leaves toward Weasley and Alexoff, who squealed in surprise as the leaves danced harmlessly around them, teasing them but never hurting them. The crowd watched in awe as Harry did something truly remarkable. He created a shimmering black shield of shadows, not to harm anyone, but to gently redirect Terrence's spells and protect himself and Naruko. The shadows moved like liquid silk, absorbing energy and sending it harmlessly into the air, making patterns that looked like dancing dragons. Professor Snape gasped. He had never seen magic like this in someone so young. That, Naruko explained to the astonished onlookers, isn't just shadow magic. Harry has a special gift, he can shape pure magical energy into anything he imagines. It's rare, and it takes practice and creativity to use safely, but he's amazing at it. Terrence tried again, but Harry's spells now created waves of gentle wind, colorful sparks, and playful magical shapes that made everyone laugh and cheer. Even the older students were impressed by Harry's control and imagination. Vasley and Alexov stared at him, wide-eyed. "You're an elementalist?" Vasley whispered, amazed. "You can control wind, water, earth, and fire?" Harry smiled. "Not just those," he said. He raised his hand, and magical energy swirled around each of his fingers. A flame danced on one, a small whirlpool on another, a floating rock hovered near his knuckle, a tiny tornado spun beside him, lightning sparkled gently from one fingertip, a glowing ball of light floated above another, and a soft shadow curled from the last. "All of them," Harry said with a grin. The crowd gasped. 7 elements, some known, some mysterious, danced around Harry's hand in harmony. Even Professor Snape staggered backward in astonishment, unable to comprehend such incredible skill. Naruko clapped her hands, delighted. "See? That's why we're a team. Imagination, courage, and creativity can win any challenge, even one that looks impossible at first." Everyone laughed and cheered, not for the magic's power, but for the joy, creativity, and friendship it had shown. Harry and Naruko shared a triumphant high five, the arena sparkling around them, reminding everyone that magic was at its best when it was shared and used for fun, clever solutions, and the happiness of everyone. And from that day on, students remembered Harry and Naruko not for battles, but for the amazing adventure of teamwork, imagination, and kindness. "Severus? Severus, wake up." Snape slowly opened his eyes, squinting against the bright light. The room around him was all white and clean. The hospital wing, he realized, sitting up a little more carefully this time. "Ah, Severus. You're awake. What happened?" a gentle voice asked. Turning his head, Snape saw Albus Dumbledore, Madame Pomfrey, and Professor McGonagall standing nearby. A few other teachers peeked over at him from the foot of his bed, curious. "Headmaster. What happened?" he asked weakly. "I was hoping you could tell us, Severus," Dumbledore said with a calm smile. "The student who brought you here said you fainted." Snape frowned. He had fainted? Why? What could have caused? "Potter," he exclaimed suddenly. "Did Harry Potter do something to you, Severus?" McGonagall asked with a stern look. "No. He surprised me," Snape replied quickly. "The girl's an elementalist." A few gasps spread around the room. "Are you sure, Severus? Most students have some control over their element before coming to Hogwarts, but a master?" Dumbledore asked carefully. "I'm sure, Albus. She caused a powerful gust of wind with just a wave of her hand." Snape replied. Whispers filled the room. "A wind master?" Dumbledore murmured. "Curious. I tested her affinity at birth. She was water-oriented, like her mother." "That's just it," Snape said quickly. "She can control more than one element. I don't know how many yet, but her skill is extraordinary." "More than one, Severus? Are you certain? Mastering 2 elements is rare. More than 2 seems impossible." "I know what I saw, Albus. She can control 7 elements." The teachers went silent. Some stared in shock, others in disbelief. "7, Severus? There are only 4 main elements," Dumbledore said slowly. "Perhaps you should rest and clear your mind." "Damn it, Albus. I'll show you," Snape exclaimed. He grabbed his wand and aimed it at the wall. A silver light shot out, spreading across the wall to form a shimmering, rippling rectangle, like a magical window into memory. Through the silver pane, the teachers watched as Naruko trained. Snape narrated quietly as they saw her face focused, her hands moving with skill and precision. Wind swirled around her, flames flickered, water rippled, and stones hovered gently in the air. "My Severus, why were your students dueling in the first place?" McGonagall asked disapprovingly. "Training duel," Snape replied quickly. "It's a Slytherin tradition." The teachers nodded slowly, understanding. But as the memory continued, they all noticed something new. Naruko's powers weren't just strong, they were unique. Light shimmered around her fingers, shadows twisted at her command, and sparks of electricity danced in her palms. She can control darkness? Flitwick asked in awe. And light? McGonagall whispered, barely able to breathe. Yes, Dumbledore said with a soft smile. She has mastered 7 elements: fire, water, earth, wind, lightning, light, and darkness. Such skill. It's unprecedented. Snape nodded, proud but wary. This is the reason I fainted. The power, the precision. It's overwhelming. Dumbledore leaned back, twinkling. Perhaps this is the power the Dark Lord knows not. Minerva frowned slightly. But how can we keep this a secret? We can't, Snape admitted. By now, word may have spread. We can only hope it stays out of the wrong hands. You don't need to worry, a voice said from the doorway. Naruko stood there, calm and composed. Dumbledore's eyes lit up. Ah, Naruko. You said not to worry? I did, Naruko said softly. I asked all the students in Slytherin to promise to keep this secret. They won't speak of it. Snape raised an eyebrow. The whole house? Yes, she said with a confident smile. They won't even remember later. It'll be as if it never happened. Dumbledore chuckled, shaking his head. Wise and careful. Just like a true elementalist. Naruko stepped further into the room, her presence calm but full of energy. I also wanted to check on Professor Snape and let him know. I won the duels. Snape's jaw dropped, but he quickly hid it behind his usual mask of apathy. You won them all? Yes, Naruko said with a gentle nod. They were distracted, so I just focused. That's all. Phileas Flitwick muttered, that doesn't seem very fair, but Naruko only smiled, polite and kind. Well, Dumbledore said warmly, you are indeed remarkable, Naruko. Both brave and talented, clever and compassionate. A true student of Hogwarts. Naruko bowed lightly, a small, proud smile on her face. Thank you, Headmaster. I'll continue to learn and do my best, for everyone. And with that, she left the room, leaving a spark of awe and inspiration behind her. Every teacher watched silently, knowing that Hogwarts had a new kind of hero, a girl who could command wind and fire, water and earth, light and shadow, and bring wonder to the world around her. Monday, October 7, 1991. Kage Bushin no Jutsu, Naruko whispered. With a puff of smoke, an exact copy of herself popped into existence right beside her. Giving its creator a cheerful nod, the clone scampered back toward the castle for her morning classes. Sighing, Naruko stepped into the forest once more, making her way to a familiar clearing. For the past month, she had been using her clone to attend lessons while she trained and explored the forest. The clone would switch places with her during meals, spend time with her friends, and then quietly disperse before bedtime. Her first month at Hogwarts had flown by quickly. After that odd day in the hospital wing, no one had mentioned her unusual abilities again. Students didn't remember the incident, and teachers wisely stayed quiet. Even though Professor Snape occasionally watched her a little more closely, Naruko chose to ignore it for the moment. Her responsibilities as head of the Slytherin Council took only a few minutes on Sundays but gave her plenty of benefits during the week. Her suggestions were always respected, and anyone she considered a friend was safe from teasing or ridicule. Over time, the Slytherin common room felt warmer and more relaxed. Students no longer froze or whispered when Naruko entered. Her friends treated her with a comfortable mix of respect and camaraderie, joking and laughing alongside her. Hermione, though not often with them, had become a welcome presence in the group, even forming unlikely friendships with Daphne and Pansy, who were showing her the Slytherin ways. Classes were mostly easy for Naruko. She was already recognized as a prodigy of magic, able to replicate spells after seeing them just once. Studying was unnecessary, she memorized everything effortlessly. She held top marks in nearly every class, except Transfiguration, where she was tied with Hermione, leaving the final outcome still uncertain. One minor annoyance was a red-headed boy named Ron Weasley, a first-year Gryffindor who fancied himself a leader. He had turned some of his classmates against Slytherins, though Hermione, Neville, and a few girls who admired Naruko's skills remained loyal to their own path. Ron's constant efforts to compete for attention only made Naruko more grateful for her clever clone. Back in her clearing, Naruko resumed her exercises. Her body was strong, her magic precise, and her control over jutsu nearly perfect. She spent her time running up trees, leaping across streams, and racing along the lake at night to practice hand seals. Afterwards, she would meditate, sorting through the memories her clones sent back from the castle. Deeper in the forest, several clones practiced spells under her supervision, while a few invisible or disguised clones explored the library for information. A rustle in the trees alerted her. Spreading her senses, she identified a passing acromantula. Most forest creatures avoided her clearings, except for the Thestrals, who sometimes played with her or watched her train. Their presence kept even unicorns at a safe distance. A memory flickered into her mind, sent by her clone, young Ron Weasley, trying to get one over on Draco Malfoy during flying class. "Give it here, Malfoy," Ron demanded. Naruko watched, sighing at his antics. Draco picked up Neville's Remembrall before Ron arrived, and the boy's bluster was almost comical. "Pass it over, Draco," Naruko's clone murmured with a smirk. Draco tossed the small orb, and Naruko's clone caught it with ease. "Hand it over, Potter. It doesn't belong to you," Ron barked, growing redder by the second. "Why should I, Ron? It doesn't belong to you either," Naruko's clone replied, calm and unfazed. Ron opened his mouth to protest again, but Naruko quietly sent the Remembrall to Hermione instead. Hermione's grateful smile was all the thanks needed. Ron scowled and stomped away, muttering to himself, leaving the clearing peaceful once more. Naruko stretched and smiled, enjoying the quiet of the forest. Her training was going well, her friends were safe, and no matter what challenges the castle or the forest brought her way, she was ready. After all, she wasn't just any student, she was Naruko, and she was unstoppable in her own clever, kind-hearted way. Thursday, October 31, 1991. "Oi, Harry!" Two voices called out. Turning, Harry spotted a pair of cheerful red-haired twins skipping toward him. They were in the Great Hall for the Halloween feast, and their playful interruption caught him off guard. "Can I help you?" Harry asked politely, while a few students glanced curiously. "Nice to finally meet you. I'm Fred." "And I'm George." The twins spoke in alternating sentences, grinning widely. "We just wanted to let you know that, unlike little Roniakins, we actually like you, even though you're Slytherin." Harry blinked. Their odd way of speaking was a little confusing, but their smiles were sincere. "As such, we hope you'll forgive any mischief we might get up to. And remember, it's all in good fun." Harry raised an eyebrow, trying to follow their back and forth. Okay?" Before anything else could happen, the doors to the hall burst open, and Professor Quirrell hurried in. "Troll! In the dungeons. Thought you should know," he shouted, then disappeared in a flurry of robes, looking both nervous and busy. "Oh no," Daphne whispered. "Hermione doesn't know about the troll. What should we do?" Harry's eyes widened. "We need to find her, quickly." The Slytherins joined the twins and Harry as they hurried down the hallway. They soon arrived at the girls' bathroom, where faint giggles and splashes could be heard. Inside, instead of a fearsome troll, they found a much smaller, playful creature, a troll of the magical kind, more mischievous than dangerous. It was tossing towels in the air and causing bubbles to float everywhere. And sitting in the corner, looking worried but unharmed, was Naruko, the clever red-haired girl who loved solving puzzles and practicing spells. Naruko looked up and smiled sheepishly. "I think it just wanted someone to play with," she said. "I didn't want to get it in trouble." Harry chuckled. "Well, it looks like it found the perfect playmate, though maybe not the cleanest one." With quick thinking, Harry and the twins gently corralled the playful troll, guiding it toward a quiet corner of the bathroom where it could safely jump and play without causing too much chaos. Naruko joined in, giggling as she used a small spell to make the troll's bubbles shimmer in rainbow colors. "See?" she said happily. "Sometimes, even a big scary problem is just looking for a friend." The group couldn't help but laugh as the twins started juggling bubbles. Draco accidentally popped one on his nose, and Harry made the troll spin in little circles. Even Professor Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall arrived soon after, looking both surprised and amused at the sparkling scene before them. "My goodness," Dumbledore said, his eyes twinkling. "It seems that heroism can come in many forms, not just bravery in battle, but kindness, cleverness, and a little creativity too." Naruko beamed. "And sometimes, a friend can turn even a scary moment into a fun adventure." The group cleaned up the bathroom together, sharing laughter and stories. From that day forward, Naruko's cleverness and the twins' playful charm became legendary in Hogwarts. And every Halloween after that, the students looked forward to the magical, bubbly, and wholly fun adventures that only Naruko, and a few mischievous friends, could create. Harry glared at the professors. I'm asking what took you so long. If it hadn't been for me, Naruko here might have been hurt. It's your responsibility as teachers to look out for your students. His voice was firm, though not unkind, just full of worry. The professor's eyes widened, and the students whispered among themselves, surprised by Harry's boldness. I apologize, Mr. Potter, Dumbledore said gently. You must understand, we thought the trouble was in the dungeons, and we had to make sure all the students knew how to stay safe. Had we known Naruko was in any danger, we would have rushed here immediately. Harry scoffed, but then a familiar scent reached him. His green eyes narrowed, fixing on two figures across the room. And what were the two of you doing on the third floor? Quirrell, why were you in the dungeons during the feast? He asked, voice rising slightly. Snape's eyes flicked to Harry, confused. And what makes you believe we were near the third floor, Mr. Potter? He drawled. Quirrell stuttered and shifted nervously. I know what's on the third floor, Snape, Harry replied firmly. And you reek of it. That is neither here nor there, Mr. Potter, McGonagall interjected. How did you know where the troll and Naruko were, and how did you stop it so quickly? Harry's gaze turned to her, sharp. How is it you didn't notice she was missing all day? She's one of your students, crying in the bathroom because of a thoughtless comment from another student. McGonagall looked down, clearly ashamed. Dumbledore's voice cut softly through the tension. I understand your anger, Harry, but could you tell us how you were able to help Naruko? Harry shook his head and helped Naruko to her feet. That's my business. Now, unless you professors want to get in the way, I'm taking her to the hospital wing. The teacher stepped aside, and Harry carefully guided Naruko out, followed by a trail of curious students. Once they were gone, Dumbledore turned to the staff. As rude as he may have seemed, Mr. Potter is right. This could have ended worse. Let us hope Naruko recovers quickly, he said kindly, then looked at Snape and Quirrell. Now, why were the two of you on the third floor? Snape exchanged a glance with Quirrell. I was making sure no one interfered with the item, Headmaster, he said calmly. Quirrell stammered, me too, Headmaster. Dumbledore nodded. Very well. Let's clean up this mess. Severus, award Mr. Potter 50 points for his courage. By the next day, word had spread quickly about Harry's brave actions. The enchanted portraits whispered to each other, students gossiped in hallways, and everyone wanted to hear from Naruko, the only one who saw what happened firsthand. She smiled politely and shook her head. It all happened so fast. I barely remember it. Harry's bravery earned him respect among the students, though a few still cast jealous glances. Naruko, grateful and cheerful, began spending more time with him. She even joined him for meals sometimes at the Slytherin table, chatting and laughing. Over time, she grew calmer, more confident, and her cheeks no longer burned at his every word. Tuesday, November 5, 1991. Harry thought about the third floor. Clearly, Quirrell wanted something there. That meant Harry would need to find it first. He didn't know what it was, but if Quirrell wanted it, that was reason enough to protect it, and keep Naruko safe. As he lay down to sleep that night, Harry felt determined. Whatever mystery awaited on the third floor, he would face it with courage, and with Naruko by his side, he knew they could handle anything together. Friday, November 15, 1991. Naruko grinned with excitement as she made her way to the 7th floor. Today was special, today she might discover whatever was calling to her from behind that mysterious barrier. The mischievous twins had noticed her wandering the halls near the 7th floor on more than one occasion. Curious and playful, they had shown her a strange map that traced the movements of everyone in the school. Naruko had been instantly enchanted. It was like having a secret treasure map of the whole castle. She had almost begged to borrow it, but of course, she didn't beg. The twins, known for their persistence, had agreed to share the map as long as Naruko agreed to join them in the occasional harmless prank. She had eagerly said yes. After a little encouragement from the twins, she even explained why she spent so much time near the mysterious door. That's when they told her about the Room of Requirement, a magical space that appeared only to those who truly needed it. Excited, Naruko left the forest behind and entered the castle. One of her clever clones pretended to sleep in her dormitory, giving her a perfect alibi in case anyone saw her sneaking around. She paused in front of the door, heart pounding with anticipation, and silently repeated, I want to find what's calling to me. She repeated it over and over, pacing thoughtfully. On her third lap, a shimmer appeared in the air, growing brighter until it opened into a swirling, multicolored void. Naruko blinked in awe, it was breathtaking. She had never seen anything so beautiful. Stepping inside, Naruko found herself in a chaotic jumble of things. Piles of old furniture leaned at odd angles, and mountains of tattered books were scattered across the floor. Toys, trinkets, and mysterious objects filled the space in a colorful, dizzying array. Naruko sighed. If it weren't for the feeling calling her, she could have searched for hours, or even days. But she felt it now, pulsing faintly in the back of her mind. A soft hum led her through the clutter, closer and closer to the object she longed to find. At last, between a pile of shiny, discarded swords and a stack of old musical instruments, she saw it, a small, pure white egg resting on a delicate stand. It vibrated faintly, as if whispering to her. Almost instinctively, Naruko reached out. Her finger brushed the egg, and in an instant, it leapt into her hands. Warmth surged through her as the egg absorbed her energy, filling it with magical light. Naruko knelt, amazed, as cracks spread across the egg's surface. The shell fell away to reveal a tiny creature inside, a baby sea serpent. Her mind filled with knowledge about the creature, called an Oceanus Rex, a magical being thought to be extinct for thousands of years. Oceanus Rex were creatures of pure energy, capable of forming a bond with a human to survive on land. This little serpent, no bigger than her forearm, shimmered with deep blue scales and had tiny black eyes that seemed to twinkle with curiosity. "Hello, little one," Naruko whispered softly. "I'm so glad I found you." The serpent coiled gently around her arm and hissed happily. "Master," it seemed to say, its voice a gentle ripple in her mind. "I've waited so long for you." Naruko smiled. "And I've waited for you, too. What should I call you?" The serpent flicked its tail thoughtfully. Naruko thought of names, remembering stories of creatures in the past, and finally said, "You shall be called Hibihata. It means snake skin." The tiny serpent pulsed with joy, glowing faintly as it accepted her gift of a name. Naruko giggled, feeling a deep connection with her new friend. She stood, holding Hibihata carefully, and looked around the room of requirement. The space was vast and filled with more treasures waiting to be discovered. "I wonder what else is calling to me," she said, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. And with that, she moved forward, ready for the next adventure. Flashbacks. Thursday, November 7, 1991. Sorting through the memories of her clone, Naruko opened her eyes and stepped out of her meditative trance. It was night in the quiet forest, and she felt a new presence nearby, something she had sensed growing stronger over the past few days, finally spiking tonight. Hopping lightly, she created a clone to continue her training while she silently made her way toward the source. Her journey led her to Hagrid's cozy hut, where the magical presence seemed strongest. Crawling quietly, she peered through a window. Inside, Hagrid sat at the table with Hermione and Neville, and at the center of it all was the source of the energy. "A dragon," Naruko gasped silently. How on earth did Hagrid have a dragon here? "Naruko?" Hagrid's deep voice boomed, and she stumbled back a step, realizing she hadn't been alone. "Hi Hagrid, how are you?" she asked, forcing a smile. Hagrid squinted at her. I'm fine, Naruko. What are ye doing out here?" "I was just checking on you," she replied, quickly changing the subject. "Is that a dragon in there?" Hagrid's eyes widened in surprise. "Why don't ye come in and see for yourself?" Back with Naruko's clone, at the same time Hibihata was hatching. "Are you sure this will work?" Naruko whispered. "Don't worry. My cousin said they'd be here, so they'll be," Blaze replied softly. The three of them, Naruko, Blaze, and Draco, waited on the astronomy tower with the baby dragon safely in its cage. After much pleading from Hermione, Naruko had agreed to help Hagrid find a safe home for the dragon. Blaze had offered his cousin's help when Naruko asked. A clone she had left behind dispersed, bringing a flood of information. Someone had discovered the dragon's presence and was approaching. Quick thinking, Naruko created a second clone to misdirect them, while she stayed hidden. Soon, 4 figures on brooms appeared, ready to carry the baby dragon to its new home. "Mission accomplished," Draco said, holding up their reward with a grin. Naruko smiled, feeling a warm glow of satisfaction. Inside her pocket, 2 vials of dragon blood clinked together, a small, magical memento of their adventure. Back with the real Naruko. "It's over there, Master," Hibihata whispered. "Thanks, Hebi. I've got a lock on it now," Naruko replied. Turning the corner, she found a small pile of broken busts. Resting atop them was a faded, mysterious tiara that seemed to hum with a strange magic. Focusing her power, Naruko gasped as she sensed a soul trapped inside. Unlike normal souls, this one was pure black, struggling to escape. She recognized the essence immediately, she had seen it before. Carefully, Naruko reached out and drew the soul from the tiara. It tried to flee, but she held it firmly. Slowly, it transformed into a tall, black-haired teen with piercing eyes. "Unhand me," the teen demanded, but Naruko only stared calmly. "I need to know who you are," she said gently. "My name was Tom Marvolo Riddle," the teen replied, voice distant and dreamlike. "Was?" Naruko asked. "I later chose a new name, Lord Voldemort," he continued, almost automatically. Naruko nodded, curious but unafraid. "You're not the real Voldemort, are you? What are you really?" "I am a Horcrux," he said softly, and Naruko's eyes widened. "A fragment of a soul, trapped to survive." She listened carefully as the soul explained how it had been separated and contained in objects, part of a larger plan for immortality. Naruko frowned thoughtfully. Humans often feared death too much, she realized, but she would rather live fully, cherishing her friends and loved ones, than be endlessly alive without joy. Carefully, Naruko returned the fragment to a small black crystal, placing it safely in her pocket. Closing her eyes, she dove deep into her own soul, sensing the contrasts between light and dark. Her own soul was vivid and powerful, a pure force of energy and life. She confronted the fragment's lingering power and, with a careful surge of her inner strength, gently dispersed it. When she opened her eyes, her forehead twinged slightly. She felt a little wetness where her scar had been, quickly healing. Smiling to herself, Naruko shook her head. Some mysteries of magic were best left to ponder quietly. "Well, that was an interesting adventure," she thought, brushing herself off. Naruko skipped through the room of wonders, a place that seemed to change its shape depending on what she needed most. Her bright orange scarf fluttered behind her as she followed a faint shimmer in the air, the kind of shimmer that whispered, "Magic is near." The room was enormous, stretching farther than she could see, filled with towers of books, floating lanterns, and glimmering treasures. Though it was already late, Naruko felt a thrill of excitement rather than tiredness. Hibihata, her small shadow-like companion, had curled up on a soft cushion an hour earlier and now snored softly. Naruko tiptoed past piles of glittering gems, her sharp eyes searching for the next magical artifact she had been tasked to find. After a careful trek over a sparkling hill of golden jewelry, Naruko finally discovered a small wooden box tucked between two towering piles. Inside, 4 rings gleamed in the soft light, 2 gold and 2 silver, each sparkling with a unique colored stone. The first gold ring had a ruby that seemed to pulse like a tiny heart, flanked by little lions that looked ready to leap off the band. The second gold ring held a smooth emerald, wrapped around by a delicate snake engraved in the metal, its tail curling to meet its head. The first silver ring had a triangular yellow stone, resting atop the figure of a tiny badger who seemed to be stretching lazily. The last ring featured a deep blue square sapphire, clutched gently by a raven with wings spread wide across the band. Carved inside each ring were single words written in a curious, ancient script. Naruko read them aloud softly: Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw. Her eyes widened. These rings had belonged to the founders of Hogwarts, or at least, some version of their magic, and now they were here, glowing with a mysterious energy. The rings seemed almost alive, their power humming in the air like a gentle heartbeat. Naruko closed her eyes and focused. Slowly, she saw tiny, sparkling bubbles surround each ring, hiding their true forms. She took a deep breath and gently touched each bubble with a careful wave of her hands. With a soft pop, the bubbles vanished. Before her were no longer the elaborate rings, but 4 simple silver bands, each with a glowing gemstone and an ancient kanji engraved on the front. A red jewel read Scarlet, a green one Bore, a yellow one South, and a blue one North. Naruko gasped in awe. These were the legendary rings of the Mandarin, powerful artifacts said to be more than 5,000 years old. Each one held a special type of magic, waiting for someone in tune with the elements, the world, and their own heart to awaken it. Naruko gently slipped the red ring onto her finger. It shimmered warmly, almost as if it were recognizing her. She held out her hand, focusing her energy, and a soft breeze blossomed into a playful whirlwind that danced around the room, lifting papers and ribbons into the air. Hibihata blinked sleepily and twitched its tiny tail, clearly impressed. The ring hummed softly against her skin, promising new adventures and lessons yet to be learned. Naruko smiled, her heart brimming with excitement. She carefully tucked the other 3 rings into her satchel, knowing she would find trustworthy friends to share their magic with someday. For now, the room sparkled with possibility, and Naruko knew that with patience, kindness, and courage, there were no limits to the wonders she could discover. Jumping off the mountain of glittering jewelry, Naruko made her way toward the final source of chakra she had been sensing. Luckily, this item was much closer than the others, and she could reach it within minutes. Skipping lightly through piles of trinkets and shiny objects, Naruko held her small ring in her hand, watching how her magic danced from it into the dogon. She could feel the energy swirl, condense, and then flow back into her, making her feel brighter and stronger with every passing moment. After a few minutes, she arrived at her destination. Oddly enough, she had made a full circle around the room and now stood beside a towering pile of books near the door. Raising an inquisitive eyebrow, Naruko hopped into the stack, her fingers brushing over dusty covers as she searched for the source of the powerful chakra. She dug and dug, the books tumbling gently around her, but the source always seemed just out of reach. Whatever it was, it radiated magic nearly as strong as the rings she now held, even more than Hibihata had ever shown. It took a half hour of careful searching, but finally, Naruko reached the bottom of the pile. Most of the books here were ancient, their pages fragile and brittle, held together only by the gentle hum of the room's magic. Whatever she was looking for had to be at least a century old. Her fingers tingled as she brushed aside the last few books, uncovering a small, glowing object beneath them. The energy in the air thickened, almost like the room itself was holding its breath in excitement. At last, Naruko lifted the final book away, a large tome inscribed in a strange, looping language, and there it was, the little item she had been searching for all this time, glowing softly at her feet. Its light seemed gentle yet powerful, humming with a magic that made Naruko's heart race with wonder. She bent down and picked it up carefully, marveling at its beauty. The book radiated warmth and a quiet joy, and as she opened it, she noticed 3 words written on the cover in elegant, flowing Japanese. Icha Icha Paradise. Naruko smiled, feeling the magic of the book wrap around her like a warm blanket. Whatever adventures this little treasure would bring, she knew that they would be full of wonder, laughter, and friendship. And with a little hop and a twirl, she set off toward the forest, eager to discover the next surprise waiting just beyond the trees. Dear YouTube family, this is all for now. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Your support means a lot. Thank you for watching and being part of this journey. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.